That's right. I'm switching to the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Yeah, I know. I've been uploading videos with iPhones and Apple products for like the past 5 years. Maybe it's been even longer than that. And yeah, you go on other channels, right? And they have like these titles like Apple fanboy or, iPhone user switching over to the new Galaxy S20, S21, S22, S23. And then like within a month, they're back on their iPhone, right? Like we all know the drill here. And that's probably the same with me. I'm an honest guy. I don't plan on switching to this thing full time. Sorry if you clicked on this video going, you know what? Samsung, they finally did it. They finally beat Apple. They got Greg's gadgets. You know what? They didn't get Greg's gadgets quite yet because I still have to test this phone. It's still in the box. I still haven't used it at all. So who knows if I'm switching. I'm guessing probably not. But with this phone in particular, I want to do a video on it because I've just been seeing so much hype and I want to get to the truth of this phone. Is this Galaxy S23 Ultra, is this really that good? Or are people just trying to like fool you here? So let's go ahead. Let's open it out of the box, right? We're given raw reactions from the Apple fanboy iPhone user perspective. You're getting the whole thing here. So look at this box. It is kind of Spartan. Look at that. Look at it's peeling off the sides here. Look at the quality control on this. Samsung, you got to do better. Everyone can tell I just opened this. How am I going to return this later when I got to return it? And you pop it up out of the box. Is that the phone right there? That is okay. I was like, what is this thing? This little weird thing over here, but that's the phone. I got it in the green color. I actually think this looks pretty nice. It reminds me of the iPhone 11 Pro color, which I had in a very similar green. This is the camera system on the back. It's a pretty big camera system, kind of going straight down. You got a lot of different lenses and cameras on this system over here for the S23 Ultra. And it's even got, we're going to tear that off in a second. Look at this. It's even got a little pen. You can scribble some things down. I always see people with like these S Pens and they're always like writing things down. And it's always just like some like mundane list of things. And I'm like, are people really writing lists or doing things with this S Pen? I kind of feel like it's a gimmick, but I'm going to find that out for myself. I actually, in all my years of using Samsung phones, I don't think I've ever really used one that had a stylus. I think every time I've opted for the flagship devices, I never went with the Note series. I always just got like the standard flagship, never the Note, and I don't believe I've ever used a stylus. So maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm going to be eating some crow by the time this video is over. So we should probably turn this on and get it set up. But you know what? Let me actually take this phone in for a second. Yeah, it actually feels pretty nice, feels pretty premium, fingerprint magnet, but I like the color a lot. Feels decent in the hands. It's a big phone, right? Like, let me get out my iPhone 14 Pro in my pocket here, which I'm totally never going to use again after using this Samsung phone, right? So let's compare the sizes over here. And yeah, you can see they're very similar sized. I guess the S23 Ultra just beats it out by a little bit, which I think is, I guess it won't be too much of a problem. I already think the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a little bit too big for my liking. I got it because of the bigger battery this year, and I'm grateful to have that bigger battery. But this is maybe just gonna feel a little too big in my jeans pocket. All right, fast forward over all the boring stuff. I updated the phone, installed some of my apps on it. All the boring stuff you do when you get a new phone. And I gotta say, right off the bat, as soon as I was setting up this phone, the default wallpaper that comes on these Samsung phones, it's not that great. This S23 Ultra default wallpaper, I don't know, I just really didn't like it. I'm like, ew, the phone looks disgusting. But listen, I'm not even trying to plug my wallpaper pack. This is from my wallpaper pack, the Bubble wallpaper pack in collaboration with LD Vova on Twitter. I think it looks super nice on this S23 Ultra. I use it on my iPhone all the time. So this is my official wallpaper. If you want to get it and support the channel, link in the description. I said I wasn't going to plug it. I just plugged it. But yeah, I really did not like the default wallpaper. But now I'm like, okay, now this phone's looking sharp. The screen quality on it is looking good. But yeah, as you can see, like everything so far with the S23 Ultra is pretty smooth. Like it's a smooth experience with the phone. Obviously, it's using an OLED display that looks nice. It's LTPO. I mean, obviously Samsung had this first even before Apple. So refresh rate and everything on that, fast and smooth. Phone feels responsive. If we go into Chrome, you swipe around, everything feels smooth and responsive for a lot of these applications. But yeah, everything looks smooth. I installed Geekbench on this, so let's see. I believe this is Geekbench 6. They kind of redid the benchmarks. It was kind of like a controversy, and I think the S23 Ultra scored lower after they did that. But let's go ahead and run the CPU benchmark, because this technically has a special Qualcomm chip in it, which makes it the most powerful Android phone, because the cores in this are overclocked, and this should be like the fastest Android phone with a Qualcomm chip on the market right now. All right, so that took like 3 minutes in total to run that benchmark. That was pretty long. But look, you could see that the iPhone is still winning with that A16 chip, but they both look like pretty impressive scores. I guess it's kind of hard to tell because I don't know the metrics for Geekbench 6 yet. But as I always say, benchmarks are just benchmarks. These are just arbitrary numbers thrown up on a screen. What else can I test on this phone? Oh, that's right. The S Pen. I'm not used to using an S Pen. In fact, I don't think I've ever used an S Pen. What shall I write for today? Number 1. Make video. Oh my God, my handwriting is really bad. It's not the S Pen, so let's not blame the S Pen. Number 2. What's with that sound? Am I nitpicking here? What is this? That is such a Samsung thing, isn't it? That is awful. Come on. Do people like that little scribble sound? I'm guessing you just go into settings and turn off the alerts. Let me load up a YouTube video to test the screen quality out on the S23 Ultra. Let's see what we're working with here. So colors on this look really nice, bright, and vivid. Yeah. Oh, wow. This does look like an amazing screen. It's a nice big screen too, so it's 6.8 inches. That's 0.1 inches bigger than my iPhone 14 Pro Max. And yeah, I mean, it's a Samsung OLED panel, probably a very similar panel to the one that's used in the iPhone 14 Pro, because Apple does use Samsung panels, and just really nice black levels, really bright, vivid scenes. I don't know if this is using like the boosted colors from Samsung, which they kind of usually do in their phones. Let's go into settings and see. Aha, so the screen mode by default is set to vivid, which is what I guessed, because the colors on that were like eye-popping. I tend to like a more natural screen, just because when I just kind of want to see the accurate color representation of it. I know a lot of people do like vivid because, hey, why not have like a vivid image, right? Like we want to achieve a vivid image a lot of times to make like the screen pop and it just looks better. But because I like to, see like photos and how they were intended to be seen, or videos how they were intended to be seen, kind of having that vivid setting kind of gives you a false sense of how it was actually captured. Personal preference with these phones, something you really can't do on my iPhone. I can't go in and set the screen to a particular way if I want it more vivid or if I want it natural colors and all that. The iPhone just has a default setting. It is set to that. It tends to lean more natural, but you get the picture there. Yeah. Oh, speakers. I should test out the speakers. I heard good things about the S23 Ultra speakers. Okay, so the speakers on these sound really good, and they get loud. Wow, they get really loud. Okay, so speaker quality lives up to the hype. So yeah, app responsiveness, S Pen, speaker quality, all that stuff is great. But you know what I was hyped for the S23 Ultra? It wasn't all this other stuff, right? Like you got all the usual Samsung flagship stuff in here, but I was really curious to see this new camera system in action for the 200 megapixel mode, which is kind of crazy. 200 megapixels. The iPhone 14 Pro has 48 megapixels. And also the vaunted, the fabled 100x zoom, which people on Twitter can't seem to shut up about how great the 100x zoom is on this thing, and how far you can zoom into things and still get and keep clarity, and how great it looks, especially for a cell phone. So listen, we've been going through this phone a little bit, seeing some of the stuff it has, but yeah, really what I got this phone for was to really test out the camera system. So excuse me for a bit, because I got to go run out and just take a few snapshots. Just a few snapshots. All right, I am back. Just took some quick snapshots with the S23 Ultra. Again, I've been looking at these for like 10 minutes, like comparing the photos between the iPhone and the Samsung phone. This is like first impressions, please take everything I say here with a major grain of salt, because again, it's just first impressions. I need to spend a lot more time with this camera. I need to take a lot more sample photos before I can really judge this camera. But I will say I walked away both impressed and a little disappointed at the same time. So with like some of like these initial snapshots and everything, comparing them against the iPhone, I think like Samsung with this new S23 Ultra camera system just does a really good job overall with exposure, like and making things like evenly exposed to the point where you kind of get the detail in all of everything you're seeing here with these shots. Whereas sometimes on the iPhone, it can make some choices that might make something a little bit more kind of, I guess, like contrasty and washed out. And sometimes that works in the iPhone's favor. It kind of defaultly gives you like a picture that you're gonna be okay with. Like you're gonna be okay with, I feel like, a lot of these Samsung photos. But the point where I was a little disappointed with this was with the zoom. So first of all, the 10 times zoom, like just using 10 times zoom and like zooming in on something that's relatively like within your periphery. Yeah, the Samsung does a way better job than the iPhone's max 3x zoom. The pictures have more detail on them, better colors. They're overall sharper than what the iPhone can do by digitally cropping into 10 times zoom. That is great. Like if I'm looking at this now and I'm looking at iPhone camera lenses, I would want Apple to get rid of that 3x camera because they have that new 48 megapixel sensor. They can just punch it on 2x. I would like them to get rid of that 3x and add a 5x or a 10x and really compete more on these higher zoomed photos. But, you know, the promise of these Samsung phones is, oh, you can get 100 times zoom. And I was taking pictures of the World Trade Center, which is like really far away from where I am. And, I did like the 30 times zoom. Like, let's give this like a little bit, because I know it's going to crop in when it goes to 10x. Let's do a 30 times zoom and compare that against the iPhone, like going up to like 15x. And like, yeah, the Samsung does pretty decent here when you consider like it's like a smartphone camera. And if you like start to punch in and stuff like that, you can go, okay, like the colors on this and everything, they look a little weird to me on the Samsung, but like overall, like a way better photo than what you would get out of the iPhone. You get way more detail. Like look at this building over here. Like that was 15x on the iPhone. This is like 30x on the Samsung. You can clearly read the numbers and letters on that building, whereas on the iPhone, you can't. But the thing that I was kind of like, on is like, these to me are not really, like maybe the 30x is somewhat usable. Anything beyond that is like I would never use these photos. Like it's kind of cool that you can zoom in all the way and you can get like some details on these photos, but like especially on like the 100x end, like these are not like good photos. Like these are really blurry, full of noise, really artifacty. A lot of, you could see the computational photography here at work basically. And it's cool that you can actually get a photo like this close up and stuff like that. Like it's kind of creepy that you can actually get that much detail. But how many times are you going to punch in 100x to get that photo? I'm guessing as I use this phone, it's not going to be that much. Now, like the 10x, I like it. Like I like the 10x. I want that option on the iPhone. If you can go up to 100x, that's cool and everything. I'm not saying like the iPhone has like, I mean, like when you punch in 15x on an iPhone, you're not getting a usable photo either. Another cool thing about this phone though, is that it does have a 200 megapixel mode. So one of the cool things about the iPhone that I thought was like, okay, you can use the full 48 megapixel raw sensor on the iPhone 14 Pro, and I use that a lot. I love that feature. Gives you a lot of details on photos. If you punch in, you retain a lot of detail, retain a lot of the sharpness, get rid of a lot of the computational photography that can introduce like a lot of artifacts. And that is true on this Samsung mode here with the 200 megapixel camera. And I feel like you can punch in a lot more, at least in my initial photos, than the iPhone, and you still retain that detail. And that makes sense, right? It's a 200 megapixel photo versus a 48 megapixel photo. So that is really cool. But yeah, that is my first initial impressions with the S23 Ultra. And yes, at least for now, for a little bit, I am switching from my iPhone 14 Pro Max. Gonna miss you. I mean, you'll still be in my pocket. I'm gonna be honest. This is still gonna be in my pocket with me because some people I know are just never gonna use messaging on this. It's always iMessage. But for the most part, I am going to be switching to the S23 Ultra, try and use it mostly as my main phone and see what is life like for the flagship Android side of things, for the top of the top, the cream of the crop, the S23 Ultra. I'm actually looking forward to it because sometimes change is good. Sometimes you need to go. You need to see what it's like on the other side. Is the grass greener on the other side? Or are people just overhyping this thing? I'm gonna find out. And then I'm gonna tell you my experience about it in another video. So if you wanna see that future video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, give me a like, and maybe I'll catch you in the next one. I don't know if I will catch you in the next one because honestly, I felt pretty dumb making this video because I'm not the biggest Android guy. So I feel like it was out of my wheelhouse. I feel like there's a lot I don't know. But it's time to relearn things. It's time to relearn. It's time to try something new, right? It's 2023. Time to try something new. Time to stop being afraid of life. When you have the S Pen, everything is possible.